Bob Nagy here, AB5N, with another equipment review. Now this is a little bit off topic. It's not a piece of ham radio gear per se, but it is a piece of gear that every ham shack would like to have, and that is a quality oscilloscope. Now up until now, the option was to buy an all-tech CRT-based scope, 20, 30-year-old scope at a decent price, and get a basically good functioning scope. But of course oscilloscopes have now moved into the digital storage oscilloscope area, and we're looking at LCD screens, math functions, FFT, all kind of good stuff, numeric displays, analysis of the waveform right on the screen, and of course those have been pricey. Well, up until right now. Enter, as much as we hate to send money to China, the Hantek DSO-5102P. What a deal. It's available in 70 megahertz, 100 megahertz, and 200 megahertz. It's slight little price bumps, and it offers FFT, math functions, numeric display of analysis of the waveform on the screen, a whole bevy of stuff, and the documentation is great too. So let's take a look at this scope's features and functions. All right, let's take a look at the 5102P. Now, to show you every test you could possibly do with this thing would take hours. We're not going to do that. I'm going to give you a nice little overview, and then you can take it from there. Now, there's three great features that a digital storage oscilloscope has, and that is that it does a numerical display of the waveform's particulars, voltage, period, all this kind of stuff, right on the screen. So you're getting frequency readout, level readout, all this kind of stuff. You can store whatever's on the screen in a USB drive that plugs right into the front over here. And not only does this scope perform normal oscilloscope functions, but it also does FFT. Now, these scopes are 2-channel input scopes, and they come with 2 probes, which are nice 1x, 10x probes, and they're also trimmable and calibratable. So as soon as you put it in and test your probe, you'll take a little supplied tool and get the waveform nice and square. It has a calibrated 5-volt square wave output over here, so you just hook your probe up to it, and you can do some quick testing there. You can set it up for more real-time reading or more average reading that brings the noise down. And when you do first turn it on, it'll run you through a calibration procedure. You should calibrate it, and say once a year it'll do a complete calibration, due to component aging and that kind of thing. So it's really got a lot of automation built right into it. And also there is a probe check over here where you can do the probe. So you're going to turn it on normally after you've done your initial calibrations and such. And what's really nice on a digital storage scope like this is you press auto set, and the thing will hear some relays clicking, and whatever waveform you have coming into it, bam, it will go ahead and pretty much put it in the ballpark of where you want to be as far as the settings. So you can get it to a starting point that's really sort of good to go with, and it'll give you your basic readouts here, your peak to peak, your mean voltage, your frequency, your milliseconds time period here, wavelength versus frequency. So you can choose how much of this stuff to have on the screen as well. This also comes with a complete PC interface and accompanying program to run it remotely from a PC. And it worked. I tried it up. So, like I said, you'll turn it on, you'll hook it up to whatever you're going to hook it up to, say a signal, and you'll press that auto set to get yourself in the ballpark. But then you're going to want to maybe fine tune it. And of course you have the regular settings here of your input sensitivity, vertical boxes per volt or millivolt, and your horizontal time base over here. There you go, and you can go out all the way up to 100 megahertz speed on this baby here. Looking at square wave and a sine wave of just about 1 kilohertz each. And of course it has external trigger capabilities over here, and of course as well as internal. So it seems to really lock up well and be pretty darn stable. What's really nice as well is that there's a ton of help stuff in here. So built into it, you can hit that help screen and it'll just tell you what you're looking at and how to deal with it. At any time you basically hit the F0 up here to get rid of stuff. On the top right, you're going to see a whole bunch of controls right in this area over here, and you're going to use these quite a bit. And that's save, recall, when you want to do a measurement of all the parameters of whatever you're looking at over here. Oh, is this cool or what? Look at that, frequency, the period, milliseconds, your peak voltages, minimum, maximum, your duty cycle, the rise time of the actual wave. And if I hit that again, it'll take it off, but then it displays every possible reading that you could possibly want. You can select a subset of these and do it on that quick vertical menu over to the right over there. So really quite interesting. You've got, of course, your utility, which is firmware updates and things like that. There's a lot of the control is done right from this vertical tab over here where you're hitting the F buttons corresponding to here. You can change the background color, of course, that kind of thing. I like blue. Set the time, the language, etc. And usually you hit the F0 up here, there's a little X to get out of these vertical menus. Between these two channel buttons over here, which allow you to actually turn the channel off, turn it back on, and of course change it AC, DC, or grounding the input. You can limit the bandwidth, things like that. Check that your probe is set to either 1x, 10x, or whatever it's supposed to be set at, and adjust the volts per division. You can make them click, click, coarse or fine, really small gradations, things like that. But in the middle is the all-important math menu, and that's where you take the two waveforms and you want to see the difference between the two, and you can add them together, subtract them, and this V0 knob here is used to change a lot of the stuff on this screen and select values. So whatever's selected by this around here you can adjust with the rotating knob or with up and down, say on the F1, F2 here. But I go all the way to the bottom of the plus minus of the channels here in the math operators, and we get to FFT. Ooh, that's pretty cool, huh? And you can even choose the windowing on that, Blackman, Hanning, look at this. But now you're into the frequency domain over here, like do all kind of other types of measurements, which a normal scope could not do. So that's a really big plus on this scope. The only thing we haven't talked about here is cursor. And that allows us to manually or select where we want to put our little cursors on the screen to manually measure that particular thing. And you can either do the voltage or the time, left or right. So look at that. And adjust exactly the period or voltage level that you want to see displayed on the values on the screen here. Want to see something really, really cool? I've got our measure screen up here looking at that stuff. I hit this F7. We go into dual screen mode. Wow, so you could separate them into different boxes over here, your channel 1 and channel 2, and we have both channels in both boxes and get individual readings on either of them. You could even use an input that has been turned off as a trigger for the other channel. And now I'm going to talk about the big secret on these scopes, and I'm just going to pass this information to you and let you research it further. It seems that the 70, 100, and 200 megahertz versions of these scopes are all internally identical, and the only difference is the internal firmware, and the only difference on it is one value and one of the lines and the setup, boot up configuration inside of this device. And there's plenty of documentation on the net out there how to rewrite that so that you could bump your 70 megahertz version up to a 200 megahertz version. Now, no guarantees. I haven't done that to this yet. This is the 100 meg in the middle, but that's about a $50, $75 price differential, maybe more, from the bottom to the top. So it's worth looking into. So there you go, the Hantek DSO-5102P portable, I'd call it, digital storage oscilloscope. It's finally time to get a great scope in the shack. So until next time, take care.